I'm not immune to those in our chats on the podcast for Legal AF and on videos who are in despair, throw up their hands and say, what does it matter what federal courts rule? Donald Trump's never going to do anything about it. The federal marshals are in the hands of the Department of Justice. And so who's going to actually execute? And the FBI is in the hands of Donald Trump and his minions. And who's going to actually execute on these things? Who's going to stop Donald Trump? Who's going to, if he doesn't abide by law, and he's increasingly reaching that red line, who is going to protect America? Let's have a conversation about the American military. Because even though it's currently headed, at least the last time I looked, by a guy named Pete Hegseth, who's never run a darn thing, not even in the military, and is circling the drain right now and is probably going to be shown the back door of the White House and say he's going to have to spend more time repairing his family or his marriage or something like that and be shown the door. There are career people in the military that have been there before Donald Trump was president, will be there long after, that hold ranks like general and admiral, and colonel and above, who, even though Donald Trump and Hegseth said they were going to start removing all of these major positions, no pun intended, they're still there. And at some point, they're going to have to make a choice, having sworn to uphold the very Constitution that we all hold dear. What are they going to do when Donald Trump, not if, crosses that line because the polls tell him it's okay or because he doesn't care and doesn't abide by the United States Supreme Court? All the finger wagging by people like Justice Alito, you better not do it, and the Supreme Court's 7-2 decision against Donald Trump in the last week, 9-0 decision against Donald Trump in the last week, his digging in on Abrego Garcia. If this continues, the military, which is under civilian command, I agree with you, but they may have to step in here. You got the Joint Chiefs that are under somebody that Donald Trump just put in power. Donald Trump used to love generals until they were all against him, including Mark Milley. Now they go after them and take away their security clearance and take away their guards and call them fat and all this other ridiculous stuff. But at some point in this country, the military, even under civilian command, may have to have a sit down with Donald Trump and tell him that we, sir, have also sworn an oath to uphold our Constitution. And what we're watching us as constitutionalists, as nonpartisan people, troubles us. And if you don't get on, this might be a meeting of the generals with Donald Trump. Stephen Miller will be, handling the scheduling that day. Yes. We've got 20 generals and admirals that would like to see the president, please. I mean, that's a scary proposition. We talk a lot about the 25th Amendment, but we're never going to have this cabinet handpicked by Donald Trump, these toadies, these bootlickers, these sycophants, have the balls to invoke the 25th Amendment, even if they wanted to find that Donald Trump is not fit for his job and as commander-in-chief with his finger on the nuclear button and take him out. So if they're not going to take him out, and we don't have Congress to impeach and remove, which we don't until the midterms, in this next 2-year period, what protects the burning light of democracy and our constitutional republic? And I would call on the military at that point. I'm not talking about a coup. I'm not proposing a coup. What I'm proposing is that the military is going to have to eventually choose between this president and the Constitution, because you can't be in favor of both. You can't be in favor of the Constitution. What it means is a living, breathing document to protect our civil rights and also support this president. They take an oath to support the president, but truly the oath is to support the United States of America and the constitutional bedrock upon which it stands. And they're going to have to take a stand. And it's, I know the MAGA will call it some sort of coup if it ever leaks out. But right now, watching, they've got to be embarrassed and also feel fear, real fear for the national security of this country, watching what's happening to Pete Hegseth, or, of his own making. We have an immature child who may have a public drinking problem or a drinking problem, who certainly had an infidelity problem, and who spent 13 years preparing for the job of running our Pentagon by being a Fox and Friends weekend host. He wasn't even smart enough or good enough to make it to the starting varsity. He's on JV or freshman team, Fox and Friends. That's who Donald Trump puts in office because he puts loyalty to him above everything else, including our national security. So you don't think there's snickering in the hallways of the Pentagon and at bases about Pete Hegseth behind his back, maybe even to his face? So they have no respect for a president. How can they respect a president that disparages almost to their face wounded soldiers and tells his chief of staff, a former general, John Kelly, don't ever put me in a photo op like that. I don't want to see them. They're losers. You know, the people that are buried in World War II graves on the battlefield, they're losers. John McCain, who was shot down and held in the Hanoi Hilton, being tortured for 5 years, became a U.S. senator eventually. You know, he's a loser. You know, the Gold Star family's all against Donald Trump. How can they support him? More importantly, they got to do their job to protect us from Donald Trump, right? We got to be protected against the constitutional transgressions. What's the military going to do? Are they just going to sit idly by and let Donald Trump kamikaze our plane of democracy into the ground? Or are they going to do something about it? They need to start thinking this way. And again, I want to make it clear in case I'm cut and clipped on the internet. I'm not calling for a coup. I'm calling for the military to uphold the oath that they've taken. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. If your oath doesn't mean anything, then resign. But if it means something, you should be having meetings about this presidency and what to do about it and what to happen when we have to break the glass. Who's going to be there when we break the glass in that time of emergency? And I never thought I'd have to have this conversation or have this commentary on Legal AF or anywhere else. But that's where we are right now. That is the moment in time that we are in, with a weak Pentagon led by a feckless person which crapped all over the legacies of everybody that came before him and all of the wounded people and wounded soldiers and soldiers that lost their life and gave the ultimate sacrifice. For what? For what? To be able to be beholden to a Donald Trump that's throwing over the game board of our democracy? No, I don't think so. So it's almost unthinkable that we have to have this conversation, but we have to have this conversation. I can't just rely on Donald Trump, who consumes poll numbers like they're McDonald's French fries. I can't rely on the polls are going to rein in Donald Trump because he's going to see how terribly people think about him, which is what's happening right now in all the polls that came out this week. He's in the shitter. I can't rely on the polls. I can't rely on the federal courts, who are doing a tremendous job. Heavy lift here, especially the ones in the right states. And the Supreme Court even, who have handed Donald Trump a series of losses. I can't rely on them because Donald Trump is outside the norm. He's rogue. He's lawless. And the people around him are too. And all they're fixated on is the ends. And they don't care about the means. The ends for them is implementing all of Project 2025 that the Heritage Foundation created, right? That's all they care about. And now that they're losing the Supreme Court, I am worried that they start doing some other things outside the judiciary to cause and foment discontent. What happens if there is a segment of our society that picks up arms against fellow Americans? I mean, if we're on the precipice of a civil war, what side is the military going to be on? And who's going to be their commander-in-chief? They answer to the American people, ultimately. So I want to have this dialogue, as uncomfortable as it is, with you. There is a role. If Donald Trump tells the federal marshals through his Department of Justice to stand down and don't implement the orders of a federal judge, if National Guards people supported by MAGA red governors won't execute on federal orders, somebody's got to step in. If Donald Trump doesn't leave office after he loses, after his term is over, who's going to take them out? And I don't mean for dinner. And that's the role of the military. They better start preparing. They better start girding their loins for this moment in history, because it may happen. I'm going to continue to follow it right here on Legal AF. While you're here, we don't blow smoke or sunshine, as you can tell. Hit the subscribe button. Help us continue to grow this pro-democracy channel. Now, more than ever, we need your help. We're hoping to hit, 580,000 subscribers this coming week. We'll do it with your help. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.